Hey there, welcome to the Spark Show. In this episode, we have my friend Satya Purna. She is a business strategist and mindset mentor for service providers looking to create six-figure businesses without burning out. And she's coached and consulted with hundreds of entrepreneurs around the world, helping them scale their revenue and profits with ease. Satya is also an aspiring philanthropist, and she is actively involved in providing education, ending childhood hunger, and empowering women-led micro businesses in rural markets around the world. Satya, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Gwen. I'm so excited to be here and have this chat with you.
I know it's late. Where are you right now?
So I'm in India at the moment. So I usually live in Singapore. My parents live in India. So I'm giving them company for the lockdown. It's been about 4 months that this lockdown has been going on in India. So it's like, I'm already reaching that point, like all of us do, of like, I really want to go back to my own life. But it's nice. It's nice to be here because literally it's been like a decade that I've spent this much time at home because I moved to Singapore like 12 years ago. So yeah, I'm in India at the moment. It's a bit late at night, but all good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. So I'm in Satya. We've been in a couple coaching programs together, and we love seeing each other on Facebook and interacting with her. I'm always like laughing with her posts. So you guys should definitely check her out. We'll have her website and Instagram on the show notes. But for people who don't know anything about you, can you give us a little background on what you do and how you got there?
Okay, cool. So like you said in the intro, I'm basically a business coach for freelancers and service providers who want to scale their business to six figures and beyond. And the way me and my team help our clients do it is we combine both scaling strategies and mindset coaching because, as you know, Gwen, mindset is like 80% of the battle right there, right? So yeah, it's a combination of both business strategies and mindset principles. And the way that I came across this, or the way I built this, was that what I realized was that when I first started my business, of course, my focus was like I was a brand strategist, right? So I started off as a brand strategist and a copywriter, and I wanted to scale my own revenues. So I obviously tried a lot of things. There was a lot of trial and error. And I figured out a way that I could scale my revenues really quickly. So after we reached that point where my business was doing like $25,000 per month or more, other people started reaching out to me saying, hey, like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you doing this? How are you getting these results? Can you show us how it's done? So it's funny because the first time I coached someone, I actually coached them on a one-on-one capacity. It was just me and them. And it was very interesting because we went through this like 8 weeks together. And of course, I could teach her a lot of the things that I knew and that I did on a daily basis. But what I realized was that the biggest block for her was the mindset side of things, as it is for all of us, right? So which is why I then hired a couple of coaches who live in Australia. I hired them to be a part of my team to coach my clients. And literally like since that point on, the results that my clients have been getting have just absolutely skyrocketed. So it's been amazing to just watch people going through that transformation.
That's amazing. And so what were you doing before you were a coach or a brand strategist? What was that like Satya 1.0? What was that?
Yeah, so Satya 1.0. So I knew pretty much like, since I was a child that I didn't want like a good corporate job. Like I never wanted that. It was just not something that felt authentic to me, right? So even when I was in college, like I just wanted to try it out. So I actually worked for JP Morgan for 6 months because I'm a huge nerd. So I have a background in technology. So I was at JP Morgan for 6 months and I hated it. I literally hated my life every single day because it felt like, not kidding, I was like, nobody got me at that point of time, right? Like, so everybody was like, what are you talking about? You're making really good. You're making $5,000 a month as an intern. Like you're 19 years old. Like what more do you want? Like you're literally, you have it made. Like just take the damn job, right? So they offered me a job when I finished my internship and I said no, because it was just like the most soul-sucking thing ever. And literally my parents didn't let me live that down for like 5 years after that. They would always be like, you should have just taken that job at JP Morgan, It's like, that was like all Asian parents, right? Like that was the
Yep,
conversation.
I get it. I get
All
it.
the freaking time. So I decided I didn't want to do the corporate scene. So then I worked for startups. I went to work for startups. I worked for a whole bunch of technology startups, but I wasn't doing tech for them. I was doing marketing. I was doing sales. I was doing branding, like just stuff that I was genuinely interested in. And of course, at a startup in Singapore, especially, you get a lot of free range because literally there's like, if you want to do something and you're good at it, do it. Like there's no limits on what you can and cannot do. So I did that for about 4 years. And then I figured it was time for me to jump in and start my own business. So yeah, then after that, I started my business as a brand strategist and copywriter.
That is interesting. I'm always wondering like what people did before and kind of like how they made that leap. It's so interesting to me. And I know a lot of people listening right now, they were in the same situation as us, like in a soul sucking, not fulfilled. They know something's off, but because of society and the need, of course, to make money and be responsible and pay the bills. So what would you say to someone who's already having those feelings and kind of that pull of like, they need to do something else?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everybody's life situation is different, right? Because I was really lucky that at that stage of my life, I had no responsibilities. Yeah, like I had a few, I think I had $20,000 in student loan or something like that at that point of time. But obviously it wasn't like too big and the interest on it wasn't big enough for me to feel like insecure about it. So I could make those moves, right? I could go take a pay cut and work for a startup, which you can afford to do as a 21-year-old. But I would definitely say that even if you are in a different life situation, right? Like maybe you have kids, maybe you're married, whatever your life situation is, I would say definitely keep that spark alive, because the truth is we don't know how long we're going to be on this planet. Like I say that in a very non-morbid, humble way. It's like, it's just true for all of us. It's like, I think it's just so short-sighted to say, oh yeah, I'll do this next year. I'll do it 5 years from now. Because if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's that nothing in this world is predictable. Nothing in this world is linear. You just don't know what's going to happen. And it could change. Everything could change in a matter of like 15 days, right? Like it did with the pandemic. So yeah, I would say keep that spark alive. Like just start and let's just keep going. And like, you're going to get there. You're going to get there. If you just start and you don't stop, you're going to get there. But you just got to start first.
I love that perspective, and it's something that I also say, and I also feel a little bit morbid, but it's true. Like it is true. People are thinking, "Oh, I'll do it like after I retire." I'm like, who says you will get there, right? Like who says it's even going to happen? And so that brings me to something that you teach a lot, and what you mentioned earlier about mindset. That is the most important thing that I feel like contributes to my success as an entrepreneur, and I know for you as well, and it's something that we teach our clients. And I love that you posted on Instagram a love note to the party poopy people who whine, complain, and blame and say like, oh, why is it so hard for me? So I know that mindset takes time to kind of cultivate. So how have you done that for yourself? Like what kind of practices do you have? What are the things that have contributed to you having that positive mindset?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing that I just want to say about this, because I think it's really important for people to get this part, and I think a lot of times people don't get this part, which is you literally make smarter decisions when you are a happy person. Like I don't mean that in an abstract way at all. Like I'm talking about it in a very, very literal sense, right? It's like if you are happy and you're positive, you will make better decisions. You'll make smarter decisions. You will be a more intelligent person. And this is completely backed by science, by the way. It's not something that I made up. It's literally backed by science. And if you are in a place of fear and panic and worry and anxiety, you'll literally make dumber decisions. And because of that, that's the number one reason why you should have a good mindset, right? It's very, very simple. This was proven by science that when you are in a place of fear, anxiety, stress, worry, all of those things, literally in your brain, the part of your brain that is responsible for making good long-term decisions shuts down. It doesn't get any blood flow anymore. And your hind brain, which is responsible for like making fight or flight reactions happen in your body, that gets turned on. So literally the part of your brain that can learn new things, that can generate new ideas, that can be creative, does not work. Okay. So that's the number one reason why people should 100%, have or cultivate a positive mindset. That's the why of it, right? The how of it is literally, there's only one way that your brain really learns anything. It's through repetition. That's the only way your brain learns anything. So it's like whether you're playing tennis or learning to swim or whatever it is that or learning to meditate for that matter, your brain only learns through repetition. So you have to repeat a certain set of activities, whether that's meditation, whether that's affirmations, whatever it is that works best for you, over and over and over and over again, until that becomes your new normal. The same way the complaining and the moaning and the blaming, like the same way that became the normal, right? So yeah, it's literally just repetition.
I love that. And so what are the things that you repeat on a daily basis?
Okay, so my favorite things would be, like, this is my non-negotiable, like 1 hour every morning, is I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's absolutely fantastic. Like, I've followed a lot of teachers. I've looked up the work and read through the work of a lot of teachers, and he's my favorite because he's just completely backed by science. Like, everything he does, he's proven it with data. So it's beautiful. So he has a breath sequence that he teaches. There's only one sequence he teaches, so it's not like there are many of them. There's one breath sequence that he teaches. I do that every single morning. And of course, I also do a meditation with Dr. Joe, which is typically between 45 minutes and an hour long. So the breath and the meditation together would be anywhere between 45 minutes to like an hour and 15 minutes long. And then I love to visualize for about 20 minutes. So just keep plugging into the future that you want to create and allowing yourself to feel the feelings, get plugged into it, and just allowing yourself to feel that reality right now. So yeah, I would say this is my non-negotiable practice every single morning. And then apart from that, and also, by the way, this goes on whether it's weekend or weekday or whatever the day of the week it is, because consistency is very important. But yeah, as you go through your day, if you ever find yourself getting negative, then bring yourself back on track, which is obviously always necessary.
Right. So listening to you, some people who have not started, a mindset practice or, find themselves like struggling with, getting to this. And I struggled with this as well. And that's why I decided to, hire a coach or be in a coaching program, because sometimes it is hard to do this yourself. Sometimes it's like, I can't do this for an hour and 15 minutes a day. Satya and I have been practicing this for years. So it's become second nature to us, and it's become part of our routine, and it's non-negotiable. But if you are just starting out on this journey, similar to both of us, like, we had to get help. And and so I would love for you to share, like, why you believe that if you do need help on this, you should hire a coach or you should be in a program, and how has coaching like contributed to your success, having a coach?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So having a coach has really just been the best thing ever for me in my business. Like, literally every time I've wanted to do a big up level in my business, there's been a coach involved, like 100% of the time. There's been no time where I did something that was like a huge step up. Like, for example, going from like $12,000 a month to $25,000 a month, or whether it was going from $25,000 a month to $50,000 a month. Every one of those big leaps has happened because I hired an amazing coach, or I took a program, or I was part of a community that could teach me a slightly different way of thinking or looking at the world or doing business, whatever that was, right? And I think the reason why I love coaching and I love being part of programs, and I think I'm in like 3 of them right now. Like right now, as we speak, I'm in like 3 programs and I work with a therapist, right? It's like there are multiple things that are happening at the same time. And this is really important because you're going to need support at different stages. And the beautiful thing is there's already somebody out there who spent significant amount of time learning something from scratch so that you don't have to, right? And that's like such a valuable thing. It's like, why would I try to learn, like, for example, if I wanted to become an interior designer, why would I waste the next 10 years figuring out interior design principles by myself and making all the mistakes in the book, when I could just go hire a designer to show me how it's done? Or maybe she's going to show me tricks of the trade or whatever it is that she wants to teach me. And I could be like a great interior designer in maybe the next 2 years, as opposed to doing it in 10 years or 1 year or 6 months or whatever that time frame is, right? So yeah, I mean, literally, like, investing in a coach is like buying time. You're just buying the time that they spent learning something so that you don't have to spend the same amount of time learning. Yeah.
I love that perspective, because I feel like sometimes people think they're losing money, but they're actually gaining money and gaining time and gaining that
100%.
Opportunity to do things faster. And I love how you shared that. have invested in coaching programs as well. And that's how I've been able to move so quickly and up level my revenue and my thinking. And so I love that about you. And that's why we're on the same page, and that's why we're friends, because we're all about like, where are we going to invest next? And like shifting that from like spending to investing. And we're in some of the same programs right now. And so I can see Satya moving up and I'm moving up, and we're like moving up together, and being a part of that community is super important. I know that, you know, we are super supportive of each other, but a lot of people are looking for those communities where other people maybe in their normal life, right, outside of the business, right, people don't understand, like you were saying, your family, it took them time to figure it out. Why is it so important for you to surround yourself with those people who are also doing the same thing? Tell us how that has affected you being in those communities.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's true. Being an entrepreneur is often a very, very lonely journey. And I'm sure you know this too, because a lot of my friends, people in my personal life, they don't understand why I work on my business. And I'm sure it's the same for you, right? And it's like, they don't understand what is going on. They don't understand what it takes. And to be very honest, I cannot have the same vulnerable conversations that I have with you, for example, like even about money for that matter, right? Because a money conversation is usually very, very taboo. Like, for example, when I think about it, like $50,000 or $100,000 is not a lot of money, right? Because once you've made it a few times over, it's not a lot of money. You recognize that it's really not a lot of money. But when I if I have the same conversations with my friend, when I'm saying, like, you know, this is actually a literal conversation I had with my friend a while back. We were talking about some kind of investment that was $75,000. And I was like, babe, it's not that much money. It's only $75,000. And she's like, that's how much I make in a year. I was like, oh. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, sorry. Because we don't, I mean, it was just a strange thing, because literally in my head, $75,000 or $100,000 is not a lot of money. But for a lot of people who are in the real world, quote unquote real world, who have a corporate job, that could be what they make in a year or 2 years. So you can't have the same conversations with people who don't have the same scale of dreams as you. Or, I mean, for example, I also know that I am thinking very small right now, right? Like, somebody might come to me and say, Satya, $1 million is not a lot of money, but I may be like, what? Like, that's a lot of money.
Exactly.
It's all relative, right? It's all relative. So that's the thing. Like, you want to be with a group of people who understand where you're coming from. And that's why it's like having community of entrepreneurs around you is just completely priceless.
Yeah, that's why I love seeing Satya on my feed every day, and like, you know, we're supporting each other. So if you haven't found that group or community or that coach yet, I invite you to start looking, and also like just put it out there that you're looking, and usually the program or the right person or the right community will, you know, show up, and hopefully, you know, you start shifting that belief that you could do it yourself and that you should do it yourself. A lot of us did not do this by ourselves. We did it with help, with support, with a coach. And it is a smart thing to do, because why are you going to try and figure it out on your own and spend all that time and money and effort when someone has already done that? I love that. So just to end, I would love to talk more about impact, because we're really big about impact in the Spark School and the Spark Society. All of our influencers are not about the selfies, the likes, and collecting followers. We're all about making an impact. And when I introduced you earlier, I talked about, you said that you wanted to end childhood hunger and empower women. So why are those two like your big two causes that you care about, and what are the things that you're doing right now to accomplish that?
Yeah, so the thing is, it's actually very close to my heart because of my childhood and like my background in India, right? So obviously my parents have always been really, really big on philanthropy. They've always been very big on donating things. Like literally, even when I'm in India right now, you guys, I don't know if this like makes sense or you guys would get it, but literally, if there's extra food in my house, my mother will not throw it away. She will go find a homeless person to give it to, right? It's like because she just thinks that, okay, like, yes, I can throw it away in the dumpster. It's going to take me 30 seconds to do that. But if we have food, which is good quality food, which we don't want to eat, like, why would you just throw it away? You might as well give it to somebody who actually needs it. And like, my parents are very, very serious about that. And literally my entire childhood, I've seen them living that way on like a day-to-day basis, where if they ever had anything extra that they didn't need, they would actively give it to people. And so my family has always been big on charity and big on philanthropy because they genuinely believe in karma and like, whatever you give comes back to you, right? So, and of course, for me, childhood hunger is it's a cause that's very close to my heart, because I know like there are millions and millions of kids in India, in Africa, in many parts of the world who are living with childhood hunger. It's a very real truth. It's a reality in this world. And it's maybe not so noticeable in a first world country like Singapore or in the US, but in many third world countries, that is a very real thing. And it just breaks my heart because I can't even imagine what it would have been like to grow up without enough food, right? Because obviously I didn't live in that reality, but I cannot even imagine what it might be like to live in that reality and how cruel it would be. If like, how would you even learn anything? How would you educate yourself? How would you do anything in this world if you had to deal with hunger on a day-to-day basis? It's just something I can't even wrap my head around. And it is especially even more cruel when it's happening to children. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why childhood hunger is a really big thing for me, but also to empower women, because I know for a fact that I've traveled a lot around the world. Like I've traveled to, I think, around 26 or 27 countries so far, and I love it. It's one of my biggest passions. I love traveling. But what I also know from traveling in Asia is that literally every single country in Asia has a human trafficking problem. And like 90% of people who are affected by the human trafficking problem is women. And the reason why they're affected, women are affected, obviously, the reason why women are affected more is because they are for sale and there's more demand for women than men. But the main reason why women get into these situations, or this profession, if you can call it that, is because they don't have a skill, they don't have an alternative, they don't know how they would survive, they don't know how to make money if it was not for selling their bodies, which is just one of the most heartbreaking things for me as a woman, and also for me as an aunt of a little girl. Like when I just think about that, it's just like, it's just shocking to me, and it just makes me so sad every time I hear about it. And I know, especially right now, like in the media, the whole Wayfair conversation is happening around how Wayfair has been trafficking children. Obviously, it hasn't been proved yet, but there's a lot of news and information that's coming out to the public now, which actually is talking about how common human trafficking is. So I feel like for all of these reasons, the more money women make, the more empowered women are, the less likely it will be that they will be in a situation like this, or they will be forced into a situation like this. So yeah, like I've done a lot of research, I've done a lot of work, I've worked for NGOs and social enterprises in the past. So there's just been a lot of, I guess, education that has happened behind the scenes for me that kind of make me really compassionate towards these issues. And what I am doing right now, so in India, there's an organization which is actually in a city that's pretty close to my hometown, Mumbai, where there's an organization which provides meals for children. Like they basically provide midday meals for children. So if they attend school, they get the food, right? So it's like, it's okay if you are too poor and your mother cannot give you a lunchbox or whatever. If you attend the school, which is also free, by the way, it's a government-run school, it's free, they will provide the meals for the children. So at the start of the year, I adopted 120 girls to get their meals, and they're still getting their meals even though it's the pandemic and all of that. They've figured it out. But I really want to scale that number to like 1,000 girls by the end of the year. And I would love to continue scaling it like year on year. So yeah, that's something that I'm really passionate about. There are a few other organizations that I support around human trafficking in Nepal and in India. Yeah, so I'm really excited. Of course, I've just started contributing like a couple of years back. I cannot wait to contribute more and more and more as my business continues to grow. But yeah, it's a really big part of my business.
I love that. And I can totally hear your passion for those causes. And that's where people, who are like, oh, money doesn't matter. It's not about the money, but more money is more impact. As you guys can see, like you're able to donate to causes that you're passionate about. You're able to be generous. You're able to invest in programs. You're able to invest in people. And so I love that so much. And I want to thank you for, sharing your time with us here on the Spark Show. And we will definitely share your links to everyone who want to check out and stalk Satya and read her awesome motivational mindset on Instagram. Thank you, Satya, for being here.
Thank you so much, Gwen. This was such a pleasure. And yeah, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So that's it for this episode of the Spark Show, and we will see you in the next one.